1, 2, 3, 4. Going. You're live. Hello and welcome to another day in the Milky Way. Tonight we got a great show for you. Another informational with myths and legends, lots of stuff going on. And thank you for coming, my co-host David Null, Hawkeye Two Feathers.
Hi, everybody. Greetings and blessings everywhere to all y'all, and hope you're doing well and don't have this crazy virus that's going around that gives you a stomach ache for a couple of days. So hope you're doing well. Thank you for coming.
Yes, thank you, everybody. I see we got Lucky Smith in the house who says the Soul Tribe is prospering. I am prospering. We are all prospering together. Thank you, Poyel. Thank you, Ariel. Thank you, Soul Tribe. And thank you, Lucky Smith, for that little bit tidbit. I so enjoy that. Jules is in the house. Jules, thank you for coming. Elderberry. Yes, I hope you have elderberries in your backyard. And Isby. And go check out Isby's channel, Isby Speaks. I hope he's going to put a show on soon. And we did our Giants show, and I don't know what else is going on. Summer's coming where we got a little bit of this and that going on, but maybe we'll get together, and he wants to do some other things, and we'll get together and do something later on, maybe towards the middle end of summer or this fall or something. So looking forward to that. Come up with something good, let me know. David, what do you got going on in your world?
Oh, just the usual, gonna get back to digging a well because we're in a minor drought down here in the South. And I want to get back to doing the medicine wheel program that I started. And sometimes I'm just crazy and get a little loony, as folks know, but I do intend to get back onto the medicine wheel. So please stay tuned for that.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's always a good thing. I'm doing the series. I'm going to have you on for doing Atlantis too. I think that's important. I think that ties in together with a lot of things. But anyway, that's another show. We're going to be on Saturday coming right up. I don't really have a whole lot on plan yet, but stay tuned. There's always a good guest coming up. And if not, we wing it, and it's a better show that way sometimes. So tonight, we're going to continue on where we left off with our two explorers and their Indian, why isn't this going? Indian guide, as they traveled across the country from state to state and trading with the Indians. Our two explorers, Lewis and Clark, the expedition from 1804 to 1806, and what calamities and things they had going on as they traveled across the country, meeting Indians and trading with them, learning their custom and ways, taking documentation. The last we knew, they had a air rifle with them to impress the Indians. They also had, they had other guns, and they also had a black man with them, which amazed the Indians too. We also know that they had a big Newfoundland dog with them, and they had a portage their boats, which were huge, huge boats. Let's see. Yeah, we're just doing a run by. Oh, here. And where's the boats? There. Portage, these giant boats that they were paddling up the river with these big poles to get to their destination. Well, they got so far, and then they couldn't paddle anymore. So they traded with the Indians again to get some horses, and I think and canoes, which the canoes, yeah, here you go. They traded for the horses. You see the horses in the background. Traded for horses and canoes, and they paddled. Once they got across the mountains, they paddled the rest of the way to the Pacific. And so they ended up in Oregon, as you can tell. Okay, so that's a little bit of revival along the way. Remember, they picked up Sacagawea, who was a young girl. She was pregnant, had a baby along the way, and by a Frenchman who also came with. She was the only woman on the journey, and they met up with her brother, who was an Indian chief, who gave the company refuge and horses to continue their journey, which made things much better. Either that or they could have got scalped or killed or something, and we wouldn't have wanted that for our two young explorers. And as we know, they were following the Missouri River, which led them up all the way to North Dakota, across North Dakota, into Montana, across Montana and the Rocky Mountains. They went into Oregon, Washington and Oregon, as you can tell, and all the way to the coast. And that's where we leave our adventures off at. Wow, wasn't that great? Hey, Susie Q. Susie Q's in the house.
I just wanted to say that when Lewis and Clark came back, one of the things that they brought back was the recipe for a Clark bar.
Well, they were one big heap of heroes, you know, when they got back. Sorry, I'm driving the bus. I should be looking forward, but I am not. I am driving the bus over here. So
it's wonders that more people didn't die on the expedition, that they didn't have more calamities than they did. They basically, I mean, it was tough, but they basically had it could have been worse. That's all.
Oh yeah. Oh. Well, here, and then I found out some things. Three things. What did Lewis and Clark discover? They discovered different plants while they were there. The Osage orange. The broadleaf gum plant, the lance leaf pastorella, the large flowered clamweed, the Missouri milk vetch, and a few flowered some other thing, peas, and aromatic aster, silverleaf pastorella, and silver surf pea. So these are the things they were discovering along the way. Let's see what happened during their expedition. And during the expedition, it lasted. They failed to find the waterway from the Mississippi to the Pacific, but succeeded in documenting more than 100 new animals and 178 plants, as well as providing 140 maps of the region. Now, that is quite a feat while you're going, you know, along the way, and all these hundreds of new animals. Let's see what else is on there. But anyway, yeah, everything from the grizzly bear, prairie dogs, bighorn sheep. There was all these animals that nobody's ever really seen or documented before. And I think it wasn't that nobody's seen them, because the Indians obviously did. It was just that nobody had documented these critters. And they didn't really fail in finding a Pacific or a waterway. It was just that there is no waterway. It just goes so far. And then they didn't realize that there was the Rocky Mountains there, I guess.
Yep.
Okay, how many animals did Lewis and Clark find? Well, during their 8,000-mile journey, they found 122 animal species, including the American animals, the grizzly bear, coyote, prairie dog, and bighorn sheep. Yes. What did they eat along the way? By the end of the journey, Lewis and Clark and the men of the expedition had eaten a wide variety of meat, fish, berries, vegetables, fruits, roots. These simple native foods ultimately fueled the most famous expedition in history. Did you know they traded with the Indians and ate dogs along the way? That was kind of a delicacy for them.
Yeah.
Weird, huh? They ended up, after reaching the Pacific Ocean in November of 1805, the group established Fort Clatsop near the present-day Astoria, Oregon, as their winter quarters. Then on March 23rd, 1806, the weary explorers, after all that rest, the weary explorers headed for home and St. Louis. So there you go. Yes, they ate dog. Early in 1806, an expedition. Okay, let's start. Lewis and Clark groups ate over 200 dogs bought from the Indians. They bought the dogs while traveling the Lewis and Clark Trail, in addition to their horses. But Seaman was spared. Seaman was their big Newfoundland dog. So Lewis didn't kill his own dog. So don't when we refer to the dog, he didn't kill his own dog. What did they drink? Lewis and Clark, whiskey. They were drinking whiskey on the rocks. The whiskey was rationed to make sure the expedition made it through the ills of the wilderness. Fresh lime, tequila, orange liquor, sweet, sour, and served on the rocks with a salted rim. Wow, they were styling, weren't they? Anyway, so that was some of the little tidbits. Now we're going to go back to reading our book. So I am going to put up a share screen so we can have something fun to look at instead of my ugly mug. How's that? Okay, everybody.
Now, for folks who have never been out west to see the Rocky Mountains, to get even a canoe over them mountains was a huge feat. If you just seen some of the pictures of what the Rocky Mountains look like, they don't have a trail. There is no road. They're literally following a stream and carrying these canoes up the sides of these. I mean, some of the mountains 8, 10, 12,000 feet. And, they didn't have any map or where they should go or how they should get there. So they're blazing a trail as well as carrying all that equipment. So anyway.
Well, yeah, and that's exactly. Oh, let's go this way. That's exactly it. It wasn't like when you guys go hiking in the mountains and you're going hiking and the trail's already mapped out for you. You can follow little markers and you go through and you might have to brush a branch or two away, but you stay on the trail and it's all good the whole way everywhere you go, right? And there's little things where it says, here's a good camping spot, this is this and this is that. They were roughing it. Nobody was there. They had to chop the branches, figure out the direction without getting lost, figure out carrying those canoes up the mountain. Hey, if you make a wrong turn, you are SOL. Hey, buddy. Hey, Lewis, I climbed up the wrong mountain. I think we got to go to the other mountain to get across this big gorge. Yeah, think let's just climb down and go up the other side, right? I'd be looking at him like, are you kidding me? Are you an idiot? I'd be, we climbed up this mountain, took us all day, because climbing up a mountain is not an easy path.
And they were carrying all their supplies and those canoes. I mean, I'm just saying, it was tough. And the fact that they did it at all, I mean, as far as they got on the rivers and so forth, okay. But when they got to the Rocky Mountains, them boys had issues.
Yeah, because the Rocky Mountains are a lot steeper and a lot rockier and than the Appalachian Mountains.
And more dangerous.
Yes. Oh, yeah. The Appalachian Mountains are kind of big, giant rolling hills, and the Rocky Mountains, they're snow-covered peaks all year long.
Yep.
I mean, if you're looking up and go, I was there, I mean, so anyway, yeah, I was there. Maybe I got a picture when I went to the mountains. No, let's see. Maybe I do somewhere here. Oh, yeah. Let's see. There is some, and here we go. Okay. Oh, I wonder if you can see that. Can you see that picture? Or did I? Yeah, I probably did. I don't know if I stopped sharing. I got to start the share. Which one I want? Okay, let's go with this one. Okay, this is when I went to the Rocky Mountains. This is the Three Forks River here.
Yeah.
And as you can see, look at the mountains there. I mean, this is the bottom. This is the river we were on. And everything was up.
Yeah.
And the river here, you couldn't, if you stay alongside the river, that was great. But a lot of times it just went straight up and there was really no room to walk. And the river got deep. So you couldn't like be on the river. You had to, get off the river and go places because you just
there was no beach. There's no bank.
Yeah,
bank
this here spot
up.
this is where we camped, and this is the biggest spot. This area right in here had the most. Okay. Oh shoot. Okay, I'm gonna stop share. I gotta start this one. Okay, did the picture change for you?
No.
No. I don't know if I could change it like that.
What time of year was that, Robert?
This was in the fall August. I think it was August. And here, this is a better one. This is when I went to, this is the Big Salmon Lake. This is like such a big remote spot in the middle of nowhere. I mean, it was a 20-mile ride to get there on narrow trails, packing horses the whole way. And then we get to this spot. There's this little bank around this giant lake. This lake is 5 miles long. It's probably about a half a mile wide or maybe a mile wide. I don't know, something like that, but it's pretty wide. And the trees there, these trees, you see them all over. They're huge, humongous trees. But you can see, look at them mountains, like, pointing there and saying, hey, we got to cross that mountain.
Yeah.
That would take you, that mountain there, that's to get up there and around that one mountain would be probably, a whole day's trip pretty much to get up there from where I'm at all the way up there. That's miles. And like it says, it was beautiful, beautiful area. And this woods here is thick as can be. I mean, you would have to, slash and burn your way through there in order to get even the horses through there. There was trees down everywhere, because nobody had ever logged it. Nobody had ever, you stay on the path because that's where the rangers have cut a path for you. Right. Anywhere else that wasn't a path was just, yeah, look at that. It's just huge. I guess I can't get that. Yeah. But anyway, yeah. Crazy. Oh, I got one more. And there we go. So, okay, now I'm on top of a mountain as we're riding, and I'm looking out across the mountains. And as you can see, look at that. It just goes on and on. These are huge mountains, and once you get to the top, you can see that there's very little, trees, but that's all rock up there. There's very little. And then these are all big trees. These are humongous trees. And then you got to climb over that. And then you get to the other side and you don't know what's on the other side.
Thank you. That's what I was going to say. They had no idea once they got up the pass, the mountain, wherever they were headed, to what was on the other side and where it was going to take them what they were going to have to do.
Yeah, yep. Exactly. That was the big thing. That's why when we went, we stayed on the trail, because you get off the trail and you get in this thick woods like this, you're out in this area, you don't know where you're going, and you can see way over here. I'm going to blow this up. Okay. If you look over here, this is the trail. This is the trail right here on the top. Can you see that trail?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's the trail. We're riding on the top of this mountain all the way over, and this goes all the way over, and then it goes down, and then the trail kind of goes in, and I don't know, kind of goes over to the other side. But that was, hours to ride from where I was at all the way over to that little bitty trail part over there. It was hours of riding all day. It took us all day, to ride up that mountain where I'm at, and then all the way over to that corner. Go figure.
And that's just one mountain. I mean, when
Yeah.
when you're heading west, there's just one after another, after another, after another. So I know where you read the last time, they did get a lot of help from Indian scouts and
Yes.
folks in the neighborhood. And so, they didn't have a map, but the local folks said, you should go this way, don't go that way. So
Absolutely.
that's about all the directions they got. You see that little V in the mountain over there? Yeah, takes you about 2 moons to get there. Okay. And go the left fork, don't go right, and
Yep.
So that was about it.
And in the meantime, you're watching for bears, you're watching for not just regular. When I was out there was grizzly bear and black bear. They're out there together, not just one here and one there. And actually they said that the black bear kind of, they're not as afraid of you, and the grizzly bear don't care unless they're hungry, but make sure you put your food up in a tree, they said.
Yep.
Like, oh boy, but anyway, I was lucky. We only seen one bear, and that was when I crossed the road, as we were driving along, and seen some tracks, and that was about it. But it seemed it was so funny, the farther we got away from human civilization, the less critters we seen.
Really?
Yes, which was really strange, because I think the critters would be out farther, but I think the critters come in because, people got food and garbage and things like that. And that's the only thing I can think of. They probably make a trip to some place where they can get free food,
Especially the bears.
Yes.
There are folks who've been watching bears for years, but there was other things out there too, like, honest to God, real mountain lions.
Yes.
I mean, mountain lions. I mean, mountain lions. We don't mean the little kitty cat. We're talking mountain lions.
And this is when we weren't hunting them to almost extinction, and they got to grow as big as they want because nobody was killing them.
Right. I mean, we've got bobcats around here though that they're huge. I mean, they're over 12 inches tall, closer to 16 inches tall. And you look at one of them and go, holy crap. And the mountain lion, the bobcats around here were like cubs to the mountain lions. I mean, in size,
Oh yeah.
And wolves, whole big large packs of wolves. And so it just wasn't a picnic.
Oh yeah.
There's lions and tigers and bears, oh my.
Oh yeah. I totally get that. There's a lot of stuff. Yeah, lots of critters that they hadn't seen. And then like elk.
Yep.
Hang on, go on without me for a second.
Oh, okay. Having been out west myself, but only once.
Hello.
Being able to see the Rocky Mountains up close and personal. I mean, even in a car, some of the places that we went, it took you half a day just to get over 1 or 2 mountains, and and it's slow going. So imagining what these guys did, almost 300 years ago, would just, basically ropes and stuff and just sheer manpower, is just amazing. So the fact that they did it, the fact that they made the journey all the way there and back again with all these, they had little leaves and samples and certain things. And the fact that they were able to do it at all without half of them being killed, eaten alive by bears and wolves and whatever, it's amazing. Even to me, even by today's standards, if a group were to try to go the Lewis and Clark way, the same way, you know, without any kind of modern conveniences. How many people could, you know, actually make that journey there and back again? You know, it'd be interesting. So them pioneer folk, they were very, very, they were bold and determined. That's one thing. And they were hardy. They just, you know, there were times when they woke up and they were cold and stiff and sleeping on the ground. They didn't have bare mattresses and stuff like that, and no modern conveniences. So, you know, having been a hiker and a camper and outdoorsman, you know, sleeping on the ground day after day after day after day after day, you know, you got creaky bones and your joints hurt, and it's cold when you're in the water and you can't help but get wet. And so, was it an adventure? Did they explore? Yeah, there's that. But there's a lot of personal hardship that they didn't really write about. Because if you're going to be on the river and in the mountains, there are just stuff that mountain people and Indians back in those days, they were just aware of it. It was just the mountains. But to folks who'd never traveled it, you know, the steep slopes and the snow and the runoff, and, you know, and folks almost, you know, sliding off a mountain at 2, 3, 4,000 feet drop sometimes. And the fact that they made it through, it really is amazing. And for, you know, looking back at it over the years, you know, it came up also, a discussion, and I think we discussed it last week, in that, you know, when the United States purchased you know, the made the Louisiana Purchase with the French, there's a lot of question marks as how did the French and the Spanish, who owned the western section of the states, how did they own it? How did they claim it? Did they put markers out like, this is my territory? So, you know, that question has been like, it was just open. But when they bought the property, they also bought everything on it, including the people. And we don't really take that into much consideration. But back in those days, well, those Indians are nothing but savages. We bought a bunch of savages. You know, we bought a bunch of these people, and they're going to do what we said. Why? Because we bought the place. And they're going to do what we say. Thus the Indian wars and all the stuff that went along with that. But not only did they, quote, buy the property that wasn't really theirs to begin with, even the French didn't own it. They just put a flag down and said, it's ours. But, you know, to this day, they still think that they own everything on the property, including us. You got to go, Robert?
No, I'm still good. There was just an alarm, and I didn't have to. I remember everybody, I'm on call. I gotta, if I got a call, I gotta go. So we'll have to end the show. But anyway, okay, I'm gonna go on, read a little bit here. The return, it's called the return trip. Food shortages made the winter disagreeable, and so did the persistent rains. The local Indians, perhaps corrupted by earlier dealings with the crews of ships coming to the coast, were constantly attempting to steal goods from the explorers. By late March, Lewis and Clark were headed back up the Columbia on a long return trip to St. Louis. Okay, and I had this up.
See, now folks might not understand what you just said there. But, you know, they're camped along the Pacific Ocean there, and there are ships that are stealing their stuff.
Well, yeah, the Indians, you know,
even though just the Indians, it was folks that, you know, Spaniards and other folks that were sailing up and down the West Coast.
Yeah. So, well, what I'm trying to say is that the Indians already knew of the white man on the West Coast,
right?
Because, you know, the ships. So but nobody had crossed the middle of the United States to actually, you know, where's my thing here?
Yeah, to go coast to coast.
Yeah, see, here they go. So the Spanish were in here, and they were sailing up and down this trade route here, you know, fishing and mining, and, you know, the whole California coast was there. This is Spanish territory. So this is up in here, had been been explored already. It was just nobody went into the interior, and they couldn't because of the mountains, and they just gave up. Hey, look at all the mountains. I'm not crossing them. And that's the end of it. Right? So let's see. Okay. Even Drillard had bad days when he could not or could find no game, but on one day he killed a total of 7 elk. Clark mentioned in his journals that some others also hunt, but do not understand the finer points of elk hunting that are unsuccessful in their exertions in the Pacific Northwest. Lewis and Clark frequently traded with the Indians for dogs, which they became accustomed to eating. Writing about super consistence of pieces of elk, consistency of pieces of elk plus bone marrow, Lewis said, Fort Clatsop is living in high style. So elk and bone marrow. Ew. Anyway, for the long winter at Fort Clatsop, had given Lewis and Clark time to review their notes and drop maps. Perhaps there was a better route that one could follow to the Bitterroots. To find out, they decided that the return trip, they would split the party in 2 groups. In July 1806, Lewis, leading a party of 10, set out across country for the Falls of Missouri. Near the end of his trip, when Lewis was expecting any day to rejoin Clark, he fell victim to a strange hunting accident. Lewis decided one day to go ashore to shoot an elk or 2 to camp for the camp meet. Peter Cruikshank seemed not to be especially busy, so Lewis said, "Cruikshank, you come along." So he's got a hunting buddy. You don't want to be out there with those grizzly bears. Lewis was apparently unconcerned that Cruikshank had only one eye, and this impaired his vision. Yeah, that's right. I want the guy with one eye to watch my back. Impaired his vision that one rendered him seriously nearsighted. Oh my God, one eye and one is really bad. They went ashore, stalked and killed one elk and wounded another. They began stalking, and the downed animal from some directions. Lewis came within range, carefully brought his rifle to his shoulder, sighted down the long barrel, and was about to squeeze the trigger when he was nearly knocked down by a terrible impact in the buttocks. At the same instant, he heard the report of Cruikshank's gun from a underbrush nearby. Lewis was furious. "Damn you," he yelled. "You've shot me." Although Lewis granted Cruikshank the benefit of the doubt, saying that he didn't think the man had done it on purpose, it is doubtful that he ever again felt warmly toward the one-eyed hunter. So ain't that a sad case? The only you get a mishap, and it's only because you took along the one-eyed nearsighted one-eyed hunter with you, and he shot you.
And you put him behind you with a gun loaded.
Yeah, that's the guy you want to have him leading the pack mules.
Yeah, but can you imagine how bad the guy probably felt? I mean, honestly, holy shit, I shot him in the butt.
Let me see that. I'm kind of nearsighted. It don't look so bad. Don't worry about it. It only hurts when you touch it or walk on it. Well, at least he shot him in the butt. Maybe it was buckshot.
Goodness gracious. Yeah, butt shot.
Butt shot. Meanwhile, Clark's group headed for the Three Forks, the river I showed you in the pictures that I went to, and crossed the Continental Divide to the headwaters of the Yellowstone, which they followed until they met Lewis on the Missouri near the mouth of the Yellowstone. I've been to the Yellowstone, crossed the Yellowstone many times.
Me too.
Oh yeah, wow, look at that. Back in St. Louis and Washington, D.C., Lewis and Clark and their party had long since been given up for lost. One person, however, was still expected them to return, was the President of the United States, Thomas Jefferson. And he had faith in these men, and perhaps sounder understanding than most of the time consuming hazards and delays that could face them on the wilderness trip all the way to the Pacific Ocean. About midday on September 23rd, 1806, after traveling for more than 2 years, Lewis and Clark's boats, they got the boats back again, came back down the river. Remember, they had portaged one boat, so that means that they had to lug it 18 miles back to the creek again, put it in the water. I would have been not looking forward to that job.
At least it was downhill, but
Yes, it was. Downhill both ways, right? Yeah. Anyway, about okay, Clark's boats came in down the river and the side of St. Louis. They fired their guns in salute, and the whole town turned out to welcome them. This little group of determined people had set out in motion an exploration of the American West. Incredibly, they had only lost one man. His symptoms indicate to modern doctors that he might have suffered a ruptured appendix, which in his day he could not have survived, even with the best medical care of the times. So, boy, you were doomed. You get appendicitis. SOL, buddy. The Lewis and Clark adventure stand today as the most important and successful piece of exploration in the history of the United States. Men of vision extended their boundaries of the nation's explored lands toward the Western Sea, discovered mountains, found passes, and traveled rivers never known to the white man before. They had opened the wild and lonesome lands beyond the Mississippi to the beaver trappers and the settlers who followed. The grateful president, seeking a suitable reward for his favorite mountain men, appointed Clark, who had respect and understanding for the Indians, to become superintendent of Indian affairs at St. Louis. He was promoted to brigadier general of the territorial militia. In 1813, he took a little trip down the mighty river.
Down the Mississippi, dude.
Yeah. No, William Clark became governor of the Missouri Territory. He died in 1838 at the age of 68. For Meriwether Lewis, there was a post of governor for the Louisiana Territory in 1807, but this appointment was unfortunate. Lewis, always serious and introspective, never adapted to the political life of compromise and public relations. He had been in office about a year when he set out on along the Natchez Trail for Washington to consult with his superiors. He stopped to sleep at a roadside hostel near Collinwood, Tennessee. He died that October 9th in 1809, almost surely by his own hand. Some believe that he was murdered and robbed. Whatever the real story was, the 35-year-old hero, his life was ended in a shoddy little tavern beside the Natchez Trace. His big work was done. He and his friend Clark and their crew of pioneering spirits had opened the gate to the west, and then next would come the fur trappers, and these skilled woodsmen would become not only trailblazers and beaver hunters, but explorers as well, learning about the American West as it had never been known before. And next would be all the beavers. So anyway, yeah, because it was a beavers. And maybe next week I will have the story of the Beaver Wars. Did you ever hear of the Beaver Wars?
I'm not sure.
Okay. So as I understand it, now this is kind of Violence for Life. Thank you for coming. And he says, I've been there in Mississippi, Natchez. So see, the world is so small.
It's Natchez down here in the South, y'all.
Natchez.
Natchez. That's how they say it down in Alabama. Natchez. But anyway.
Oh yeah. Okay. So we've been talking about the trappers and the beaver and all of that good stuff, right? Well, when the white man first came to the East Coast, there was tons of beavers there, and they traded with the Iroquois and the Mohicans and all of those Indian tribes along the coast for their beaver skins until they got pretty wiped out. And then of course what happens? Well, the white man says, hey, I want to go trap on these other lands. It's always about the money, people. Always about the money. So then they moved across into the Indian lands, and the Indians fought back, and therefore they called it the Beaver Wars. And they were fighting for their land because the white settlers wanted to come in, and the trappers went in and they caught the beaver. And in doing so, they opened up the land, and chased off the Indians, and the
And
war
killed
was
all
on.
beaver.
Yeah, exactly. It was not the best deal. So,
Oh, and they're also, by the way, Native Americans, and one of the cards, it might be the beaver card, is that the Native folks considered, they didn't hunt the beaver. They just left them alone. So here comes the white man doing, now he's present, he's on their land doing stuff that they don't normally do, and fishing them around to begin with. So, it was a slap in the face all the way around. But anyway.
Well, and that's exactly it. You got the Indians thinking, what the hell you want with that damn beaver? And sure, get rid of them. We don't care. But then, the white man, well, there's thousands, and we'll just keep trapping, and like a never-ending supply. And
right. And you see, you never heard about roast beaver.
No.
You don't hear about, but the pelts are still highly, prized, but to the point, so that was like what they did to the buffalo later on. They just killed them, skinned them, and left them to rot.
Yeah.
And that pissed off the Indian even more, just.
Well, like on the trip there, he says, yeah, he went out one day and he shot 7 elk. Well, okay. You shoot 7 elk. There's like what, 20 some odd guys on the trip, right? You know how big an elk is? It's 1,200 pounds. And even if you get a small one, you're talking 800 pounds or so. And so you're going to feed, and you don't have a refrigerator. It ain't like, hey, put it in the cooler back there, cover it with some ice. We'll have it for a couple of days.
Even when you field dress them, they still weigh at least half as much, as the whole carcass, So, but 7 of them, and how'd they get them out of the woods? Yeah.
Yeah. What did they do? Just cut off the best parts? Like, yeah, like chop out the tongue and chop off, a chunk of the tenderloin, and we'll take that and call it a good day.
Pretty much. But gutting them was one thing. There's a lot of weight right there. So, but livers and hearts and them tender pieces on, on the inside, so but they could field dress them in no time. Yeah,
they're not carrying that elk with. It takes, you're going for specific parts, and that I'm going to look into. Elderberry says the Iroquois the Iroquois Indians war against the other tribes. They decimated the Hurons. Yes, and that is so true. That comes along with the Beaver Wars. And I will get into that next week. I promise you people, I'm going to look up the Beaver Wars. And it was something the French and the English were one of the two. They buddied, as far as I know so far, they buddied up with the Iroquois and gave them guns and ammunition. And in exchange for land and, hunting rights and all these other things. And with those weapons, the Iroquois became a powerful nation because they had guns and weapons and, metal knives and all these things that these other Indian tribes did not have. And they literally went through, what are you going to do? Here, I'm shooting an arrow and you got a gun, what do you do to that?
A steel knife versus a flint knife.
Yes.
Which could break.
Or a bone knife.
Or a bone knife. Right, exactly. So, as soon as metal was brought in, natives were trading their wives and uncles and, anything they could to get something that was made out of metal.
But the joke was on them because as far as I read my study on that so far, the Beaver Wars and the Iroquois, they had the Iroquois, wipe out the other Indians, and then the Iroquois were big medicine, and then they said, you did such a good job, we're going to give you some blankets. Woohoo, we got some blankets. And then they all died.
Yep.
Wow. Talk about germ warfare way back in the day. And they knew they were giving them blankets.
Yeah, like they
did. They just didn't say, oh, well, we got these blankets over here. Oh, nobody washed them. Oh, that's all right. Yeah. The
conspiracy theory goes all the way back.
Yes, there was we think, these people were good, blah, blah, blah. And I don't know if you people have heard what's going on in Canada, our neighbor over here. But with that, they've been taking away their security weapons, their boom booms. And we don't want to say those words pretty much because that will trigger the algorithm. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, the point is from doing all this studying that I've been doing on all these things, the one thing I've learned is when the white man took over, or we'll put the controlling party took over, what did they do? They disarmed the other party, or gave them the shoddy stuff, or like when they put the Indians on the reservation, they took away their security tools, their hunting weapons and things like that. They took all that stuff away and said, here's a cow. Now you got a knife, you know how to butcher a cow. We'll give you the meat, blah, blah, blah. Have fun with that. No more buffalo for you. No more, black powder. No more none of that. You're on the res. And if you misbehave, we'll come in with our cannons and all our other good stuff and put you down. And that they did. When there was an uprising or the ghost dance or any of that kind of crap, like Wounded Knee. You ever hear of Wounded Knee? That'll be another show. Yeah. Hey, look at it. They look like they're rowdy. Let's go in there and wipe them out. And that was the end of it.
Yeah, when the whites found out what the ghost dance was.
Yeah.
And the ghost dance is where the native peoples got together and they were praying to the elders and to all of the ancients that had gone before to come back spiritually and help take back the land.
Yeah.
And bring it back to the Indian, which meant all the white people would be gone. Now there's still that Hopi and other prophecies that, the native folk will take back the country, And so, but
they just might.
The white people were really ticked off that, and so there wasn't they didn't have any, the interesting part is that it wasn't a war dance. I mean, they got together for the ghost dance to ask the ancestors to come back. So they were like, holy crap, these folks are praying to angels and things. And oh my God, we can't have that. Because they were scared crapless,
Yeah. And that's
one of the few natives that were left. So anytime they tried to do a ghost dance, they were slaughtered.
Yes.
Men, women, children, everything.
Yes. Yeah, they didn't care.
Right.
They didn't care. They're just, putting them down. Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting, all that, but in the end, you're right. They may actually come back because they were saying that there's like 60,000, was it 60 or 60,000 Indians that live on reservations without power. So, if the world runs out of power, for instance, just put it that way, you and me, we're going to be hurting. That guy that doesn't have electric lines, he ain't even going to know anything happened. The Amish guy in his shed. Hey, did you hear? Power's out for the white guy. Oh,
yeah. Like for me, I have tried to live that way myself for a bunch of reasons, to just be conservative. If I don't need lights on or power or whatever, if I need hot water, I go turn the hot water heater on. When it's hot and I'm done, I turn it off. And I turned the hot water heater off yesterday, and I still had plenty of hot water warm enough to wash dishes and stuff with this evening. So, my hot water heat. So my electric bill this last month was $36.
Yes.
But my power, if my power goes out though, I'm going to miss that little bit. But
yeah.
I can make it where other people are just they're gonna freak.
I got a good friend, Gus, and he sometimes is in the chat. Maybe he's listening tonight, but he does the same thing with his hot water heater. Saves him a ton of money too. He says,
yep.
He says, hey, I turn that hot water heater off, lasts for about 3 days, and I turn it back on. I live by myself, so hey, he takes a shower, he's got hot water, washes clothes, everything. He says when it starts getting cold, he turns it on. saves himself a ton of money.
Yeah, poor of as much as for me, if you just leave it on all the time, it's as much as $40 a month just for a
Yeah.
single person, you know. And
Yes.
I'm like, the heck with that. I could use that $40, you know.
Well, yeah,
So
exactly. You do that over and over and over every month. It really adds up. You know, if it's just once, it wouldn't be so bad. But if you do it over and over and over, it you notice it.
so I get a little over $1,000 a month. So $40 is a lot of money to me, you know. I
Yes.
mean, and so the fact that I can save it consistently every month
Yes.
and bank on that, you know. But where other people, I say, so how was your electric bill? Oh my God, it was almost $300, and we can't afford this. And I was like, turn something off. I'm sorry, turn something off, you know.
Yeah. And
Oh, I don't know what we're going to turn something off. Because if they turn off your power because you can't pay the bill, you ain't gonna have power anyway. So might as well learn how to turn something off. But anyway,
well, yeah, and that's the thing. A lot of people look around and go, what do I turn off? Well, you know, a lot of here's the thing. You know, you can buy one of those meter deals, or a lot of times, you know, you can check different things. Like a light bulb is not going to use a whole lot of power. Or, you know, if you turn your TV on and off, that's going to use a lot more power, because once your TV's on, it doesn't use that much power. But if you turn it off and you turn it on, turn it off, turn it on, or if you you know, have a freezer will cost you about $10 a month. You know, your
or
fridge,
more.
yeah, or more. Your fridge is kind of the same way. Every time you open it up, it loses the cold, it turns itself on. You know, just like your hot water, it's constantly heating, you know, 40, 60, 80 gallons of water every single day, if you're using it or not, because it's trained, you know, it's put there to keep it at a certain temperature regardless. So, you know, you don't need 180-degree water. It heats it up to 180 degrees. You turn it off. You insulate it real good. It'll stay for a long time, won't it?
Right. And that the first my hot water heater is set so low. And the reason is because I worked as a maintenance man in nursing homes, and they have special circulating pumps and everything with the hot water, so that if at any point in the nursing home, when you turn on the hot water, it won't scald the patient or the resident, right?
Yeah.
And so the water has to be consistent throughout, however big it is, right?
Yep.
So and it's maintained well. You know, anything over like about 112 or 15 degrees is going to scorch you, you know. And so at 125 degrees, which is about what my hot water heater set, it's plenty hot and still stays hot for at least a good day, if not two. So hot water heaters are, you know, you have to have scalding water to get your dishes clean. Well, I don't have scalding hot water. And if my washing of dishes over these last 10 years of being retired and at home more, I should be dead because I didn't scald my dishes. You know, I mean, so some of this is just insanity.
Yeah.
And
yes.
oh, you have to do it like this, and it's got to be this hot, and that's just all insanity.
Yeah, you're talking about, you know, killing major germs and things like that. Put a little bleach in there and run it with a little colder water. That'll kill the
Soap
germs.
and water
just
will just pretty much kill about anything.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
know.
Yeah, and exactly it. Soap and water. Here, violence is for life. He says my hot water heater doesn't work, so I use a big stock pot and boil the water. And good for you. You know,
I've done that too.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and by coming up with those things, I mean, if world goes to shit or something, you gotta revert back to that. You know, I remember my grandma telling me that they would take a bath, and the boys, the three boys, my dad and his two brothers, they would take the bath first. She'd heat up water and have one of those big tub things or whatever it was, not a regular tub, but you know, it was a wash tub kind of deal. And they would sit in the kitchen and one at a time and come in, and grandpa, he got to go first, you know, and then the boys all got to wash in the dirty water afterwards.
And the reason two reasons. In the old days, a lot of houses, they could put a hand pump in the kitchen.
Yeah, they had a hand pump in the kitchen.
They had a hand pump in the kitchen, and because the stove was there, you know, water, heat, bathtub. Here, bring the tub in, you know.
Yep. The kitchen was the main room of the house. She said they had the hand pitcher pump in there, and you know, they took the baths in there. They had the old cook stove in there, and she'd make 3 loaves of bread a day. Homemade bread, 3 loaves a day. And the boys and him would eat that up every single day. That's, you know, it's like, wow, okay.
Down here in the South, when in the early 1980s, there I worked for the weatherization program. So I had an opportunity to go out into the country to old folks' poor houses. I mean, some of them still only barely had electricity. And my in-laws, when I first got married in the 70s, the house they lived in only had 3 light bulbs. There's one in the living room, one in the middle room, and one in the kitchen. And that was that. 3 light bulbs in the ceiling, and I only had 1 or 2 plugs. And so I was asking my father-in-law at the time, he goes, you know, I said, you know, why don't there should be more light bulbs? And he goes, listen, in the house, he said, we moved in the town, the house we moved out of only had 1 light bulb, and it was in the kitchen where they did all the cooking and bathing and everything. He said but he said they only had 1 light bulb in the house, and it was in the kitchen. And that was common.
Wow. See, and that's the thing. And they were thankful for those few light bulbs. So, you know, you just got to be grateful for what you got. Now we're spoiled. We don't have a light in every room and every corner, lighting our pathway and, you know, everything. We're complaining. Hey, there's only 14 light bulbs
plugged in, and there's this over here and that, and oh, we are, well, other folks are so spoiled. Yes. But over the years, you know, the fact that if I had a light bill that was like $70, and I was freaking out. It was only 1 month, but I was like, what did I leave on? You know, but to the point that, you know, people who are complaining about their light bills, they're not being conscious enough. They're just going to have to wake up to, oh, my light bill went up, so then turn something off. People have a 100-watt bulb when they don't need it, when a 40-watt bulb would probably do. I've got all low voltage. I mean, this light right here is a 25-watt, and I can see fine around the house. And I used to be, it had to be a 75-watt bulb in every room. And at nighttime, there were lights all over the house. And you know, and that's just stupid, you know, to put lower wattage bulbs. Well, it's an LCD, it's still burning more electricity than you need. And if you get used to the lower wattage with your eyes, it actually helps with your sleep and all the things. And you know, you're better off with lower wattage, you know, and you save electricity. Oh, well, I put in a new energy saving bulb. Yeah, but it's still 100 watt. Oh, but it still saves. Okay.
Whatever. Yeah. Isby says, I remember taking baths in wash tub. My grandmother would heat the water on the stove. And yes, there was a hand pump in the sink and an outhouse. Yep. My grandma's house had an outhouse. She had 1 sink in the house. That was in the kitchen. And that was when I was, you know, at the end of her life, you know, the house had the sink in the kitchen. That was the only room in the house that had any running water. There was basically 1 light in each room, and that was pretty much it.
Yep.
A few plug-ins once in a while here and there, but that's about it. That was it. Very not so modern.
And you know, people have got heaters, electric heaters in every room and stuff like that, and all this. You know, oh man, you know, people survived. I mean, my grossmother on the other side of the family, you know, she came from Germany before World War II, but had lived through, you know, World War I and, you know, and all that, and got the hell out and immigrated to the United States. So, but I can barely remember her as a child. She was this thin woman, but she was always doing stuff. But she was, she made it to like 91 and fell
Wow.
off a chair changing the light bulb in the ceiling in the kitchen.
Oh, geez.
She fell and hit her head, and that's how she died. So, but she was active all the time, but she only had a couple light bulbs in the house. That there was a 2-seater out in the barn. As far as the toilet, and hand pump. She did have a running water in the house, but she still had a hand pump there too, as I remember. So this would have been like 56 or 7. 1956 or 7, and it was
Wow.
just common.
Yep. That is true. So what do you got for us tonight?
I've got a story, and I think I've passed over it a time or two, and it's called The Stolen Wife. And I don't think I've read it, because I read through it again today a couple of times, and it was like, I don't think I've read this. So in the event that I have.
What page am I looking for?
285.
Okay. You talk about it. I'm going to find the page.
All right. This is the Tiwa, folks. And there are a lot of stories about couples and husbands and wives. I'm pretty sure I read the story about how Coyote wanted to marry somebody, and he did this and that. And so anyway, there was a lot of trickery going on. just saying, there was a lot of trickery going on. And if we think the guiding light, or the young and the restless, or the young and the useless, but anyway, if you think some of them love affairs and stuff, and going in and doing, the animals had it too. And it's amazing that how some sharing of a husband or a wife or something was rather common, in that we've talked about this, in that if a woman's husband died, and her sister would say, look, to keep her from drying up and becoming an old maid, she'd say, you can use my husband, which I'm sure the husband disagreed with. But to that point, though, they understood the idea of that. I guess some would just say it's just sex, but they just looked at the whole thing differently. Now, it doesn't mean that they were obviously promiscuous, because in talking with the elders and stuff, they were like, no. Now, sometimes just people wandered off into the bushes and came back an hour later, and nobody asked, but he said, that really wasn't as common as a lot of people would think, because that would mean that you dishonored your wife or your husband. So anyway, but there was some tomfoolery going around, and with Rabbit and Coyote, and Ictamay was in on this stuff too. So,
well, and that's the thing is, everybody remember, we read these stories, and they're fictional characters, but if something really happened, you'd label this story, and so and so is this, and so is that, and this happened, and because you wouldn't want to start out a story and say, Wonka Tonka guy over there and Sitting Bull, they did this, and well, now you're labeling somebody, and forever, and from now to evermore, you're gonna say Wonka Tonka guy and Sitting Bull guy and the old calf lady got together and had a threesome. But if you said it was coyote and beaver and squirrel, or deer, then it's a good story, but nobody knows really who you're talking about.
Right. And it's interesting, because there's a story in here, and I'm not sure if I've read it before, but addresses that same thing. So one of the characters might have been Beaver or somebody, but anyway, he was tired of his wife, and there was this young new thing in the neighborhood, and so he goes to courting her and saying, hey, look, at sundown, I'll meet you, blah, blah, blah. And, hide under the blankets and I'll come sneaking in the teepee and nobody will know. So his wife overhears this and goes and talks to the chick and says, hey, I'm going to be the one doing the sneaking. So she sneaks in the teepee. And so, Walrus comes in thinking, haha, there's this nice little cutie under the covers, and he sneaks in and everything's fine and hunky-dory. And of course, the wife plays along. And so the husband, he just thinks he's just having a good time with this nice young broad. And so he sneaks back out of the tent and he goes back in. And now the wife has changed places and she's gone back home. And so she repeats, she goes, so you think my skin is dried and ugly, do you? And slaps him upside the head and repeats all these things because the husband's like, oh, your skin is so soft, not like my wife's, who's rough and gray. And, so, and she repeats everything back to him and beats the hell out of him in the meantime, right? So, so he ends up sleeping with his wife, so, she withheld that for a while.
And see, that's the thing, if you put names on it, it wouldn't be a good story to tell. But if you label it as beaver and walrus and whoever, you could tell that story for years and years to come.
Now, contrary to that, there was back in the days of the Victorian era, 16, 17, Shakespeare and Moliere and some of these great playwrights from back in the day. They were writing about stuff like that, where, look like my cousin, and they sneak into a room and they've changed places, and, the lights are out and the Lord of the house comes in and it's somebody else, So there's a lot of, but the interesting thing is that they have stories like that, but using animals as the characters.
Yep.
So the same stuff's going on on the other side of the planet, but they're talking about it differently, Yeah. So,
well,
but anyway,
humans will be humans regardless of where you go. I mean, it's just like, the white man was over here. They were, in England and Rome and all those places like that in Europe, fighting amongst each other for land and resources. And back here, there was Indians and they were fighting amongst each other for land and resources too.
Counting coup.
Yeah, counting coup. And I mean, they were literally all warriors. I mean, just the state of things. That's how it is everywhere. I mean, people think, oh, we want peace and safety. But you know what? When it boils down to it, there's always war. Where they're always, because men are men.
Yep. And some of them were warrior women. I mean, the Vikings, and and then there were the Huns, and then there's the Mongols, and then there's oh my God, war has been like forever,
Yes.
So
never did they all settle down.
But the animal folks and the legends though didn't go into massacre.
No, they didn't.
What I mean?
No.
There has been a distinct line, in my humble opinion, because we haven't seen a story yet after 30, how many now?
32.
32. So where was there a massacre of any kind by one group over another? The white man's come in and done the massacre, and then the Indians turned around and retaliated. But among the natives, they warred and did things, but they weren't really into the kill every person thing.
Yes, they rather count coup, take land, few scalps and things. That's another thing's on my list. But anyway, we're good. Let's get on with this, and just in case I get called out, so we
and we're getting long in the tooth too. So
we'll
finish this up. And thank you everybody for hanging out with us tonight.
I hope you all enjoy. Let's see who. Oh yeah, Isby says there was a lot of incest with settlers all over the years. Well, to address that, remember they didn't have big groups. So if you're in a group or a town traveling, it ain't like you get on match.com and say, oh, I'm going to meet somebody 50 miles away. Whoever's in your town after so many years, you're probably related to them.
Yep, at some point.
Yes.
All right, so we ready?
Yep,
Countdown.
you're good to go. Get your cup of coffee, sit down, listen to a good story.
The Stolen Wife by the Tiwa. Once a time in a village of the Kuo Chita lived an untidy old man and an untidy old lady. Also living there with them was their grandson, Tiny Flower, his wife, White Corn, and the young couple's baby girl. The cold weather was coming on. To prepare for the winter, Tiny Flower went to the mountains every day and hunted deer. One morning, soon after he left the house, White Corn picked up her water jar and took it to Green Willow Lake. There she filled the jar, and as she leaned over the water, she spotted a magic stick under the surface and pulled it out. The stick belonged to the governor of the Yellow Kachina people. He was a personage with great powers, whose duty it was to make rain, thunder, and clouds every day in the 4 directions. Although the governor lived far from the lake, his power was such that he had been able to watch White Corn from his home. Seeing how beautiful she was, he used his magic stick to fly to her. Now he jumped out from behind a bush and cried, "You can't take that stick. It belongs to me." Laughing, White Corn darted away, and the governor chased her around and around the lake. She enjoyed being run after by the handsome stranger, while the governor was wishing that he could have the beautiful woman for his wife. Out of breath, White Corn finally came to a stop and handed him his stick. "Lady White Corn, may I have some of your water?" White Corn offered him her filled jar, and he drank some and gave it back. "If a person drinks from the jar and doesn't finish it all," said White Corn, "the custom is to pour the water on him." Now it was the governor who had darted away and White Corn who chased him, but he didn't run very fast, and he enjoyed having her splash him with the water. "Lady White Corn, wouldn't you like to go to my place?" "Where do you live?" "Not far. I live at the top of Flint-Covered Mountain." "Yes, I'll go with you." White Corn emptied her water jar and placed it upside down at the edge of the lake. Both the governor and White Corn sat on the magic stick, and in moments they reached the top of Flint-Covered Mountain. On the rooftop of the governor's house was a ladder made of cedar wood. The two climbed down the ladder and into the house. At once the governor said, "Lady White Corn, this is my home, and now it's yours too." White Corn had been tricked. Like it or not, she had to stay with the governor. When Tiny Flower returned home and found that his wife had gone, he dropped everything he was carrying and hurried to his grandparents. "My son," said his grandfather, "we found her jar turned upside down at the lake. We have looked and asked all over, but no one has seen her." Tiny Flower searched again for his wife and visited almost every home in the village, but he learned nothing. The baby cried and cried. The grandparents had been taking her to be fed by the nursing mothers in the village, but still she cried day and night. The best that the old couple and Tiny Flower could do was carry her back and forth, trying to soothe her. Days passed, and Tiny Flower grew sadder and sadder. He lay on the rooftop and grieved. Even his arrow bag made of mountain lion skin lay empty on the floor where he had dropped it the first night he returned. "You must go to Grandmother Spider," his grandfather said at last. "She will know where White Corn is, because she can spin her web into all parts of the earth." Carrying gifts, including a little bag of blue cornmeal, Tiny Flower set out to visit Grandmother Spider. He reached her house after many days of walking. "Grandmother, this is a home of reverence, a home of respect, and I have entered it humbly," he said after she invited him in. "My heart is heavy, sad thoughts disturb my mind, and with your permission, I would like to tell you of my troubles." And he spoke of his missing wife and crying baby. "My son," said Grandmother Spider, Your wife is at the top of flint-covered mountain, where the governor of the Yellow Kachina people took her. Well, I must get her, he cried. First go home, cleanse yourself with holy water, and fill your bag with arrows, she said. Then return to me, and I will give you instructions and some of my medicine. Tiny Flower traveled quickly and reached home in 4 days. He cleansed himself carefully and rose the next morning before the sun was up. After offering blue cornmeal to the Great Spirit, he started out again. In 3 days, he arrived at Grandmother Spider's. My son, take this pipe, this bag of tobacco, and this medicine stick, she said. Just before you reach the governor's house, bite a piece off the medicine stick, mix it with your saliva, and rub it on your body. Use the pipe and the tobacco when the governor challenges you to match his powers. If you win, you can take your wife away, but if you lose, he will keep white corn. Tiny Flower thanked Grandmother Spider, who blessed him and told him not to be afraid. Then putting the pipe, the bag of tobacco, and the medicine stick in his quiver, he went on his way. His journey took several days, for he had to pass Shufani, the Dioa Kawi Mountains. Then he followed the trail of the bears, which led to the top of flint-covered mountain. Tiny Flower quickly found the governor's house and saw that smoke was coming out of it. So he climbed to the roof and stamped on it violently. Out came White Corn. Oh, my husband, she said, why are you here? The governor of the Yellow Kachina people is so cruel and so powerful that something awful will happen to you. Don't be afraid, Tiny Flower said. I've come to take you home. First, you must wait for the governor, replied White Corn. I belong to him now, and he would be so angry if he found me missing that he would hunt us down and kill us for sure. He has gone to the south to make thunder and rain, but he comes home for dinner at noon. White Corn gave Tiny Flower some cornbread while they waited, and at noon the governor arrived. I smell ashes, he said in a loud voice. White Corn, you've fed someone here. No, there's no one here. Who would dare come? I know you have someone. Where is he? Well, someone is here, White Corn confessed. It's my husband. He came to take me home. Angrily, the governor said, where is he? In the next room, she said in a husky voice. Why doesn't he come out? Call him. Out came Tiny Flower at that moment. Aha! Look who's here, Tiny Flower, the deer hunter. We shall see which of us is the better man, and the one of us who has more power will keep White Corn. Poor me, I don't have any magical powers or know any tricks, Tiny Flower replied, but I must do what you say. The governor pointed to the center of the room. Sit on top of this flagstone, he said, and Tiny Flower did as he was told. White Corn, stand beside me. And White Corn moved to the governor's side. The governor prepared a pipe, lit it, and gave it to Tiny Flower. Here, smoke this. Puff, 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 puff went the smoke as Tiny Flower pulled on the pipe. Soon he began to feel dizzy. He swayed back and forth and to the sides, swayed to the right and then to the left, but he did not fall over. You must know something. You must know something, said the governor. I know nothing. I don't live by the night. Poor me. The things I do are done in the daytime. So how could I know the things of the spirits? Seeing that the tobacco had not worked, the governor began to sing. White Corn joined in, and together they sang. Aya, ya, ma. Aya, ma, aya, ma. Aya, ya, ma, aya, ma. Tiny Flower, man, if you are a man, your beloved wife you can take with you. If you are not a man here, this lightning you can take with you. And the governor of the Yellow Kachina struck at Tiny Flower with a bolt of lightning. However, it just missed him. 4 times the governor and White Corn sang, and 4 times the bolt of lightning missed Tiny Flower. The governor had failed. Now it was up to Tiny Flower to test the powers that Grandmother Spider had given him. Tiny Flower said, "It's your turn to sit on the stone." As the governor seated himself, Tiny Flower told White Corn to tighten her belt and the laces of her moccasins. Then he prepared the tiny pipe that he had from Grandmother Spider and told the governor to smoke it. "Ho, ho, ho! What can this little thing do to me? It's so small I might swallow the whole thing." He took 1 puff and became dizzy. He took 3 more. Puff, 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 and over on the floor rolled the governor. Tiny Flower and White Corn sang, "Aya, aya, yama, ayama, ayama, aya, aya, amama, ayama. Yellow Kachina governor man, if you are a man, my beloved wife, you can have, you can have. If you are not a man, here, this lightning you can take with you." And Tiny Flower struck at the governor with a bolt of lightning, which he did not miss, but split him in 2. 4 times Tiny Flower and White Corn sang, and 4 times the governor was hit by lightning. Tiny Flower tore the governor's body into 4 pieces, and then took White Corn by the hand and left the house. "Be brave and strong, my wife. I am taking you home." Hand in hand, White Corn and Tiny Flower ran along the top of flint-covered mountain. Soon they came to the trail of the bears, which led them down into the valley and back to Grandmother Spider's house. There they stopped just long enough to thank her and return her medicine. And she told them to hurry because she knew that the governor was coming back to life. Sure enough, in the distance, Tiny Flower and White Corn saw a small white cloud. The governor was just beginning to breathe again. It was not long before the sky darkened and thunder and lightning began to play all around White Corn and Tiny Flower as they ran. When they passed the river with red water, rain had caught up with them. By the time they reached Yunki, it was falling faster and faster. Tiny Flower urged White Corn to keep running, for they were just a mile away from home. The Rio Grande was the next river they crossed, and hail began to fall. All kinds of birds were circling above them, but they kept running. They had only a few hundred yards to go when the hail became so heavy that they could not move. Tiny Flower and White Corn lay on the ground, and all the birds that had been following, crows, eagles, hawks, sparrows, and more, swooped down and protected the man and the woman with their spread wings. The birds that were on top of this great canopy were struck by hail and became spotted, while the ones underneath, like the crows, kept their solid colors. When the rain and the hail stopped, Tiny Flower promised the birds that in the next 4 days, he would bring them 4 deer to eat. Then the couple reached home at last. The grandparents and the baby girl rejoiced, and White Corn was so happy that she cried. As the legend goes, it is because of her return that White Corn still grows in the village of San Juan. Told at San Juan Pueblo, New Mexico, in the early 1960s and translated from the Tiwa by Alfonso Ortiz.
Wow. Now that was a good one.
Isn't that an interesting? I don't think I've read that before. But so
no.
Powerful men have went around and stolen wives for a long time in many cultures.
Yes.
You know, like, hey, I'm the king. I want her, you know.
Oh, yeah. I mean, no matter where you go, King Arthur, you know, stories or what's that one where Rapunzel, they put her in the castle and she had to
Yeah.
hang down her long hair, or Snow White, or any of those stories. I'm going to get me one of those books and read a few of those stories too. Those are kind of good too, one of these days.
Yeah, I want to get back into those stories you sent me on the stick.
Yeah.
And plan a couple of those, because we're about out of stories in this book, but we've done 32 shows now, and
absolutely. 2-3 stories a time usually. And but yeah, we're gonna have to start finding some new books. Oh my goodness. I got that one I sent you. I don't know where it is. Oh no, I got this one here. I got this one the other day. I've been looking through to find different books, and this one wasn't the greatest book. I mean, it's got some tales in it, but it's not quite the book. I sent you that Cherokee book.
Yes, and I've covered it up. It's somewhere around over here. There's mail on top of it, I'm sure, but I went looking for it today, and I'm like, it's got to be right around here somewhere.
Yeah, I sent you one and Linda one, and I thought, well, between the two of you, maybe we can come up with some good stories out of that. We got to get another good book going. That's all. Either that or we're going to have to change our show and rename it and say, well, 35 episodes, this is all we get. Now we're going to have to start doing, something else. Call it a whole new show.
Well, it would still be Native American myths and legends, because they would just be legends of the Southeast or of the Cherokee. But no, the name could pretty much stick, in my humble opinion.
Yeah, we could rename it up a little bit, change it up, like maybe Native Heroes and ancient stories or something.
But the myths and legends gets hits too.
Yeah,
because of the name. But anyway,
who knows? If anybody's got a good suggestion, let us know.
Should we? I think we ought to just leave it alone at least for now, because it covers all kinds of things.
It does. It does.
And if anybody types in myths or legends, that parameter comes up. So anyway, I've been sitting here shuffling cards, and I picked two.
Yep. Susie,
and because I knew you were going to ask me.
Lovely show. Yeah, just stick around, Susie. We got the cards to come yet.
I've got them sitting here. Now, here's a very interesting thing. Earlier today, I was thinking about the box turtles that I talked about last night that I've seen in the yard. And I thought to myself, wow, turtle, and he comes out, and I've got 5 or 6, depending, outside cats. And they'll come around the house, and I feed them in this, galvanized feeder thingy. Anyway, and it's right out here outside the window. And when they munch and crunch, there's little tiny pieces that fall outside and around the feeder, right, that are on the ground. So a couple of days ago, I'm outside dumping food in for the cats, and there's this box turtle eating the little crumbly thingies from around the thing, and the cats are there, and they're not bothered by him, and the turtle walks by and the cats just move, and it's like they've been doing this for a while. And I'm thinking to myself, really? So a day goes by, and I'm out there feeding the cats again. There's the turtle coming across the yard, heading towards the cats. I don't know if the turtle heard that I was feeding the cats or not, but he was there with the cats again. I was like, whoa. So then out in the yard yesterday, I think it was, me and Doug are out where we cleared a bunch of trees earlier this spring. And lo and behold, here's this box turtle. Now it's about 50 yards out there. And I don't know if it's the same turtle or not, but if so, so three times in 3 days, box turtle. And I'm watching this little guy go across the yard. And for as slow as they are, they make good time. I mean, in just a couple of minutes, he was heading up into the field. I was like, dude. So he's got his little route around the yard. So anyway, so today I wake up and I'm thinking, wow, the turtle, that's just interesting. I wonder if there's supposed to be a turtle card later on tonight.
What do you know?
Turtle.
Turtle.
The first card I chose. And I shuffled them good, haven't messed with them. I am shocked, but here's the turtle card. Now it is upside down, but we know that sometimes that's a good thing. But I'm sitting here going, you got to be kidding. Yeah,
That is so cool.
Here's turtle card, but it's for all of us now.
Yeah,
I think, there's good medicine in turtle. Now the next one is dragonfly.
Yep.
And we pulled dragonfly not
last
too long
week.
ago.
Last week.
Was it last week?
Yes, last week.
So I don't know if it was upside down or not, but this one is right side up. But anyway, let me get the book, take a swig, and I'll read you about turtle.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Just box up one of those turtles and send it to me. It's a box turtle.
It is a box turtle. Yes. And when my friend was here it's been almost 2 months now, out in the back and doing some stuff, and we run across 2 box turtles getting it on.
Oh,
and
my.
So, but there've been turtles in my yard. I found turtle shells over the many years I've lived here, and it was just interesting. But the fact that I woke up this morning with turtle on my mind, and then that thing about does that mean I'm going to pull a turtle card? And I thought, nah, I did.
Yeah.
That I'm sorry, I'm still kind of freaking out.
See the spirits or whatever, your guides, they're trying to tell you something, but in the end, it's that here's the card. There you go. There's your doggone proof.
And I don't know necessarily, I've seen the turtle thing. So, but then to pick the turtle card tonight is like, well, there's got to be a message here. But I'm always asking for messages for all of us, But anyway, So number 10, turtle, Mother Earth. Turtle, great mother, feed my spirit, clothe my heart, that I may serve you too. In Native American teachings, turtle is the oldest symbol for planet Earth. Now that's just interesting anyway, that I pulled this card. It is the personification of goddess energy and the eternal mother from which our lives evolve. We are born in the womb of Earth, and to her soil our bodies will return. In honoring the Earth, we are asked by turtle to be mindful of the cycle of give and take, to give back to the mother as she has given to us. Turtle has a shell which is similar to the protection that Earth has employed for centuries as her body has been defiled. Mother Earth's protection has come in the form of earth changes, new plant growth, the creation of new land masses by volcanoes, and climate alterations. Like turtle, you also have shields that protect you from hurt, envy, jealousy, and the unconsciousness of others. Turtle teaches you through its habit patterns how to use protection. If you are bothered by the actions or words of others, it is time to go inside yourself and honor your feelings. If you are attacked, it is time to give a warning snap. The one you got up right now, wait, go back one.
That one?
Go back one.
Okay, that one?
I think so.
Yeah. That one or this one? One or the other? What are you looking for? Oh, box
I was going to say that it's about that color.
Eastern box turtle right there.
Yeah.
That's the turtle. That's the Eastern box turtle.
Yep. That's what he looked like. Yep. In my yard.
Wow, way cool.
All right. So if you have chosen the turtle symbol, you are being asked to honor the creative source within you, to be grounded to the earth, and to observe your situation with motherly compassion. Use the water in the earth energies, which represent turtle's 2 homes, to flow harmoniously with your situation and to place your feet firmly on the ground in a power stance. Turtle is a fine teacher of the art of grounding. You may even be able to overcome some of your space cadet tendencies if you align with turtle medicine. In learning to ground, you are placing focus on your thoughts and actions and slowing to a pace that assures completion. Turtle warns of the dangers of pushing the river, as evidenced by the plodding pace that it keeps. The corn that is harvested before its time is not yet full. However, if it's given the chance to develop at its own rate, in its own season, its sweetness will be shared by all. Turtle buries its thought like its eggs in the sand and allows the sun to hatch the little ones. This teaches you to develop your ideas before bringing them out into the light. Look at the old fable of the tortoise and the hare and decide for yourself whether or not you would like to align with turtle. Bigger, stronger, and faster are not always the best way to get to a goal. When you arrive, you may be asked where you've been, and you may not be able to remember. In that case, arriving prematurely can make you feel very immature. Now, it was upside down. Pulling the turtle card in the reverse means that Mother Earth is calling you to reconnect in some way. If you have become flippant and forgotten to place waste in its proper place, instead of throwing it out the car window, she is calling. If you have felt alone in your time of need, she is calling. If you have been struggling financially or have little to eat, or if you've desired a child and see no pregnancy in the near future, she is your medicine. Use it. You are not alone, ever. You are a child of Earth. All acts of pleasure, joy, and abundance are given by the mother of the creative force. Use her energy to aid you, and you will be healed enough to share this energy with others. The idea of a turtle helplessly trying to right itself after it has been flipped upside down can also symbolize contrary turtle. You are not a victim, and you are not helpless, no matter how much it may seem like this is the case in your present situation. To right the ill-dignified turtle, you need only list of things you are grateful for. And from that grateful place in your heart, look for the abundance of alternatives that Mother Earth gives. Now I like that message.
That's right. There's always alternatives.
Yeah, and
you know,
to right the ill-dignified turtle, you only need to list the things you are grateful for. And from that grateful place in your heart, look for the abundance of alternatives that Mother Earth gives. That's a really good, summation of this.
Yeah. Well, and then that's so true because, that's what we were talking about today, earlier about the alternatives. We don't need all that lighting, not to say go and lighting candles, but don't need all those lights.
But you can light a candle too. I mean, there are a lot of folks who, like candle power and stuff, meditation, and it's good, if you're having trouble sleeping or whatever, turn off those LED lights. I have purchased the old type filament bulb that is 15 watt, 25 watt, and 40 watt. And I do have other bulbs, but this is a 25 watt. That's plenty. Yeah, and I can read by it or whatever, but it also doesn't strain your eyes. It doesn't hurt your brain. I mean, there's just a lot of other stuff about that.
I got kerosene lamps, and when you light them and you got them going in the house, it's kind of a soothing light.
It is very.
It's like sitting around the campfire.
It's that warmth that light frequency gives. So lighting a candle for meditation and all that. One candle can light a whole room if you turn, you turn everything off. But anyway, so the next one is Dragonfly, which is number 27. And we did do it last week. It's illusion. So interesting that turtle is asking us to ground to Mother Earth. And, if we're grounding, then here's Dragonfly with illusion. If we ground ourselves, we can see through the illusion. That's my preliminary. But dragonfly breaks illusions, brings visions of power. No need to prove it. Now is the hour. Know it, believe it. Great Spirit intercedes, feeding you, blessing you, and filling all your needs. So here's Mother Earth, ground with Mother Earth. She gives you what you need. Interesting. Dragonfly medicine is of the dream time and the illusionary facade we accept as physical reality. The iridescence of dragonflies' wings reminds us of colors not found in our everyday experience. Dragonflies' shifting of color, energy, form, and movement explodes in the mind of the observer, bringing vague memories of a time or place where magic reigned. Some legends say that dragonfly was once the dragon, and that dragon had scales like the dragonfly's wings. Dragon was full of wisdom and threw through the night, bringing light with its fiery breath. The breath of dragon brought forth the art of magic and the illusion of changing form. The illusion of changing form. And the shape of its new body became like dragonflies. And accepting the challenge to prove its power and magical prowess, dragon lost its power. Dragonfly is the essence of the winds of change, the messages of wisdom and enlightenment. So dragonfly is coming into us all, and they're bringing winds of change, the messages of wisdom and enlightenment. So y'all pay attention. And the communications from the elemental world. Now, if you ground with the earth, like Turtle is asking, then the world of the elementals is going to be easier to see. This elemental world is made up of the tiny spirits of plants and of the elements of air, earth, fire, and water. In essence, this world is full of nature spirits. If dragonfly has flown into your cars today, you may have forgotten to water your plants. On another level, you may need to give thanks to the foods you eat for sustaining your body. Now, the turtle card just said to give thanks to Mother Earth for those things. So on the psychological level, it may be time to break down the illusions you've held that restrict your actions or your ideas. Dragonfly medicine always beckons you to seek out the parts of your habits which you need to change. Now, let me add this. People think that, well, you know, dragonfly is saying, like, my habits, I got to change my habits. It may not be bad. It may be that you need to learn new habits. Not that necessarily your habits are bad, but you need to get rid of old stuff to take in the new. So, but if there are many folks who just refuse to look at the fact that maybe they need to change. Well, there's nothing wrong with me or whatever, but maybe that's just it. On the psychological level, it may be time to break down the illusions you have held that restrict your actions or your ideas. So if you keep thinking that you don't need to change in any way, well, then you're just going to get stuck in a rut. Dragonfly medicine always beckons you to seek out the parts of your habits which need to change. You have to put on too much weight, or have you started to look like a scarecrow? Have you tended to the changes you have wanted to make in your life? In other words, if I did a video last night about guts and, you know, so forth, but you got to have the guts to follow through on something. So are you following through yourself? If you've made up your mind to do something 2 months ago, are you still doing it? If you feel the need for change, call on Dragonfly to guide you through the mists of illusions to the pathway of transformation. See how you can apply the art of illusion to your present question or situation. And remember that things are never completely as they seem. So, you know, Mother Earth is teaching us with Turtle to how was that put at the end?
Turtle is Earth. Yeah.
Whatever
Yeah.
situation you may be created, you ask for assistance and abundance will follow. To write the ill-dignified turtle, you need only list the things you are grateful for. And from that grateful place in your heart, look for the abundance of alternatives that Mother Earth gives. So, you know, I see where the two of these are connected. Absolutely. You know, and for whatever reason, I saw turtle 3 times in this last, you know, 7 days. And then the card pops up. That in itself to me is like, whoa, dude. Because earlier today I was laughing about it. I said, now watch me pull the turtle card. Nah, you know, there's 44 cards, right? And I did not stack the deck. And the fact that the turtle card came out first,
Mm-hmm.
it's blowing my mind still. So, but anyway.
Oh yeah. But yeah, that was good. That was good. I think they all fit together, you know, and I think because the dragonfly card keeps coming up, it's trying to tell us something.
Yeah, you know, there are a lot of illusions, like, you know, we were talking about some of this earlier, in that, you know, that we're all going to get monkeypox and we're all going to get this and we're all going to get that. We're all going to die. We're, you know, okay. But you know, that's dragonfly. That's somebody else's illusion that they're trying to put on you, you know, and you may have your own illusions of where you live or whatever. But to the point though, so the biggest thing I can say is for people who, you know, they get caught up in the fear of the chaos right away. And you just have to take a breath and look at things. Like somebody was asking last night, just said, did you hear about the monkeys that got loose from the back of a van in Pittsburgh or something? And that there's this bio lab in Pittsburgh or Philadelphia or whatever. And it was like, there are labs all over the place. There are labs in Valdosta. There's a college there. Viruses are requested by university, all kinds of viruses, so that their medical departments can, you know, study them. So the fact that there are labs, well, yeah, and oh, there are viruses that were being transported, if you only knew. But there, you can order viruses online through these universities so that their students can study them. So this idea that, oh my God, there's a lab with viruses, listen, there's stuff loose all over the place. Okay. Just, it is, you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So,
just remember that most viruses and germs are killed in the sun.
Yep. So, but anyway, so the people that are getting really upset about the monkeypox and all this other stuff, illusion.
That's right. That's right. I mean, it's a fear tactic, and sure, there's always that people that get some sort of disease, and there's people that die all the time. And when it's your time to go, it's your time to go. Best is don't make it your time to go.
Yeah.
You know, do the things that you need to do to stay alive and healthy and well. And it's like this. I was listening to this guy, and he was talking about this guy. This is one of these unfortunate experiences, and I'll sum it up really funny. Okay, so this guy driving around in the desert in a van, takes the wrong turn. He drives and drives, van breaks down, runs out of gas or something, and tires flat, yada yada yada. He sits there and thinks, well, maybe somebody will come along. After 2 or 3 days, he realizes nobody's going to come along. So he gathers up what remember, he's in the desert. So he gathers up what he got, his water, food, whatever, takes off hiking, you know, and away he goes, and he hikes and he hikes and he hikes. And just about, you know, to death's end, he falls over in the center of the road. There he is. Along comes a car or some people, and they rescue him. They got water to give him stuff, take him to town. He freshens up, comes back with the mechanic and the thing, and he says, oh, you know, well, we can't really get your car fixed here. We don't have enough parts. It's going to take more than what we got, blah, blah, blah. well, we'll tow it back. And he's like, oh, well, I can fix it. I'll just go get the parts myself. And, I'll go out there. I'll get a ride. I'll go out there because, I'm cheap and I'm broke and I'm poor. So he gets the stuff, has some friends drop him off. He says, well, I know my van's down this road. I'll go get the van here. Thanks for all the help you got. Drops him off. He goes to the van. Uh-oh, it was the wrong road. He hikes and he hikes and he hikes. Can't find the van. Can't find the road. There's nobody out there. He's in the desert. He hikes and he hikes and he hikes some more. Well, now you don't have any water. You don't have any food. You don't have anything. After about 3 or 4 days, he must have died. Somebody found him. And now he was dead. I'm thinking this guy could have avoided dying, but he keeps tempting fate by saying my van's in the desert and I got rescued once. And now he's like, hey, I'm going to go back in the desert. Darned if I wouldn't have took a bunch of water with me. And darned if I wouldn't have took a friend, or if I wouldn't have had somebody drive me right to the van. And, think ahead. You almost died because you didn't have enough water and food. So you went out a second time and you didn't bring any water and food. Now, who's a dummy? You see what I'm saying? You could avoid the whole mess. You should have learned from your first mistake.
Really. And there are some folks that are doing exactly that in life.
Yeah.
They're like, well, I can handle this and I got that and I got this, but they really ain't paying attention to the big picture. And they, well, just drop me off here. I'll get it. And, it's to their demise, which is sad. But, there a lot of folks are going around and around in circles. And, to be honest about that, though, the news these days, along with all the other things that are going on, and I keep reminding people, ever since I can remember, there's always a flu season. Every year there's a flu season. Every year there's a new vaccine. Every year there's a new strain. So this idea, people are like, oh, there's going to be another COVID. They're going to lock us down again. Well, maybe, but there are a lot of people that are going, nah, we ain't doing this again. But the fact that somehow that because there's a new virus coming out, or will there be, there always is. For the last 30, 40 years, there's always been a new strain of virus, usually from China.
Yeah.
And usually from bird flu or this flu. I can't remember. I think every time I can remember, it always comes from China. So to me, there's nothing new about the scenario that they present us every time. But people who haven't been watching over the last 50 years, because they're not 50 years old, or older, but that, so they don't have the experience that us old timers, have had it every time. Now, also with this thing, family members of mine, my daughter and her clan and folks down in Pensacola, they all got sick after having 2 shots of the virus. And they all got it anyway and got sick. So I didn't have a shot. I haven't been sick. So who's the smarter of the group?
That's right. That's right. And like I said, it's the simple precautions. Wash your hands. If I call you up and I say, hey, I'm sicker than shit, don't come over and say, hey, I'll sit at your dinner table while you sneeze on me either. That's not good either. But you go to town, wash your hands when you get home. Sit out in the sun, get some vitamin D. Take some vitamin C, eat an orange, eat an apple.
And vitamin D, there are a lot of proven techniques and things that are out there with certain vitamins and so forth. And, and keep your pH level up.
Yes.
Stay healthy, for goodness sakes, because people with weakened immune systems in any way are more likely to get this. So keep your immune system up,
Yes. Get plenty of sleep. That's another thing. Sleep, that if you just get more sleep, you could lose weight. People who get enough sleep lose more, are thinner than people who aren't. It's weird fact. And then of course there's, it helps your immune system. When you're sleeping, that's the only time your body can really heal itself.
Yep, I would agree with that.
And your brain actually cools down at night. This is our big computer up here. During the day, the wake hours, your brain heats up, and at night it's a chance when it gets to cool down. The next part is what else is sleep. So when you're sleeping, if you don't get enough sleep, if you go without sleep for so many days, I forget how many days it is, but you'll go insane. Literally lose your mind. You get very irrational, crazy, like do weird things, all because you didn't get sleep. And that's how they like break people who, hey, I want you to tell me these secrets. Oh, no, I'm not going to tell. Well, then they keep them awake. They'll put lights on, prop their eyelids open, whatever, give them stimulus shots. Oh, I haven't slept in 42 days. That's what you want to know. I'll tell you anything.
Yeah. And without REM sleep.
Yes. REM sleep.
But so back when I was working in the carny business, Saturday was the day you got everything ready. You work Saturday matinee all the way into 1-2 o'clock in the morning with folks. Then they shut you down, and then you have to tear the rides down that night and have them loaded on the truck and leave at dawn to go to the next spot. So it wasn't hard at all to be up for 24, 36 hours, going to the one spot, double back, get another, drive and come back. And then when you get there, you got to set everything up and at least stake out where you're going to be. So there were times on my second drive, you double back, I was seeing stuff jump out of this onto the road, and you hit the brakes and go, what was that? There ain't nothing there. And I wasn't on any kind of speed or pills. I'd just been up. And so I learned that many years ago, having driven, but there's some creepy, freaky things that'll happen when you're trying to pay attention and that kind of thing, and you're sleep deprived.
I never used any of that stuff, but when I get tired and I'm out late at night, I start seeing things too. And it's like, holy shit, what was that? Oh, where am I?
And it's creepy.
Yeah. It's like, oh boy. So yeah, it's enough. Speaking of getting sleep, we're at the 2-hour mark. We got to get going. I'm on call. I need to get some sleep myself. And with that, remember everybody. Well, thank you, David. You going to have a show later tonight?
Yes.
Yes. So go get yourself a cup of coffee, you too, and take a little break, get back on, and David's going to be up all night. What are you talking about tonight?
I'm actually going to go back to the medicine wheel.
Medicine wheel tonight. Awesome. I'll probably catch it in the morning. But anyway, I will be back on Saturday, and I will have a short for you tomorrow. It's a good one. It's all about love, people. It's a love one. Anyway.
And we love you.
That's right. Remember, everybody. And as Lucky would say, with being prosperous, Soul Tribe is prospering. I am prospering. We are all prospering together. Thank you, Poel, Ariel. Know your power, Soul Tribe, and we all prosper. And with that, be the frequency you want to receive. I love you all. Thanks for coming. Peace, everybody. And there we go. Woohoo! Another show in the books.